So we're crossed the half-century mark of this game, and we just got the opening credits for the final round. At least we're now on a level playing field. We know what our cards are on. Our cards are in play, so to speak. We've gotten past Watase back. Past Watase being good intentions terrorist Watase who wants to kidnap Yuri for his own intentions. Because apparently letting Yuri live a free life will preclude her from testifying against Rokame City. Anyways, Ukita's back. We beat up Ukita.
やるならさっさとやってくれよ。例の悪意の消去ってやつ。間違いなくおっさんの頭の中には例の怪物がいるぜ。失神から目覚めたら多分また暴れ出す。そうなると面倒だ。
Natsuhiko had seen a deranged Ukita up close too. He was no doubt infected with malice. Won't do something as crude as a full memory erasure anymore. That was the decision Natsuhiko had made. So he'd erase only the malice within Ukita, in the same way he had done with Watase.
よし、ユイ。じゃあ今度は最初から花の香りがする記憶だけを検索して修復しよう。そしてその上で危険体 N の魂を消去するんだ。
それでいいの？隊長さんの時とやり方が違うみたいだけど。
他人の記憶を読むのは最小限にしたいんだ。おじさんだって勝手に心を覗かれたら嫌な気持ちになるはずだからさ。
It was something Natsuhiko had been prohibiting himself from doing. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I mean, I'm sure Ukita's not really that layered or complicated of a character. But in response to that answer, Watase said,
なるほどな。能力の乱用を自分で戒めているってわけか。その意志自体はいいことだが、俺はそれは危険だと思うぞ。
危険？なぜだ？
ただ悪意を消去すれば、この人が安全になるとは限らないだろ。
何？おじさんはお前の仲間じゃないか。それを信用してないのか？
そういうことを言ってるんじゃない。ただ俺にはおっさんがどういう人間なのか正直わからない部分が多いんだ。俺が言うのもなんだが、おっさんの行動は怪しい点が多い。有利を縛り上げたりもしたしな。念のため彼がどんな思惑に従って動いていたか確認すべきじゃないのか。
It was a little unexpected for Watase to say such a thing despite not being a communicator. Yuri spoke in support of that opinion as well.
ヒコリン、気が咎めるのもわかるけど、ここはちゃんと浮田さんの過去を確認すべきなんじゃないかな。改ざんされた記憶を修復するなら、浮田さんをなるべく深く理解してなきゃダメな気がするよ。
I mean, as simple as it was to repair the affected memories of Watase, it did involve an understanding of his past, I suppose, so...
そうしなきゃ、修復した記憶がちゃんと正しく治っているか確認しようもないしさ。
確かにな。
Watase and Yuri made sound arguments, but it was important to know the dangers of his ability. It might have been more dangerous to fixate on such moral issues. Perhaps you should follow Watase's and Yuri's suggestions. Oh. Everyone's lives hang on my shoulders. Can't be too careful with malice erasure here, can I? Just how detailed of a check should he run? Should he look through Ukita's memories in detail, or only the bare minimum? I'm gonna keep it to the bare minimum. Indeed, this wasn't the time to preoccupy himself with unnecessary worries. Natsuhiko decided to prioritize escape over anything else.
よし、それじゃおじさんの記憶に潜ろう。
As Natsuhiko held his breath in anxiety, Yuri gently grasped his hand.
ヒコリン、私もついてるから。
Natsuhiko nodded at her words, walked up to Ukita, and activated Senses Sympathy. When Natsuhiko looked into those memories, he saw scenes leading up to when Ukita had committed the terrorist attack appear and disappear. Ukita's fate had changed approximately 2 years ago. He'd been nothing more than a diligent researcher of Labo up until that point. Actually going to... I don't know what the exact values are, but... I just did literally max Ukita and min Natsuhiko, and we get this. Consider that course of action for a moment, but then Natsuhiko second-guessed himself. Now I really do want to know the details. Why would a diligent man like Mr. Ukita dabble in terrorism? Natsuhiko decided to have a detailed look at Ukita's memories.
よし、それじゃおじさんの記憶に潜ろう。
As Natsuhiko held his breath in anxiety, Yuri gently grasped his hand.
ヒコリン、私もついてるから。
Natsuhiko nodded at her words, walked up to Ukita, activated Senses Sympathy. Ah, so, starting from the start, it was 4.5 years ago. After graduating from college and completing over 10 years of hard work in the field of physics, his dream of being admitted into the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization was fulfilled. For his admission, he was informed that Labo was no nuclear research facility, but instead a BC research facility. Labo was lying to the world. That mattered little to Ukita. All that mattered to him was his own research. It was said that by joining Labo, a vastly accomplished laboratory, one's career was more or less set in stone. Ukita looked to his own future with pride and high hopes. When he first visited Labo, he met her.
はじめまして。新しく配属されました浮田刑事です。よ
Oh,
ろしくお願いします。
Dr. Tenkawa.
私がこのセクションを統括している天川美代子です。以後お見知りおきを。
No one greeting him was none other than Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa, a world authority on elementary particle physics. She had been active in the world of physics before she'd even hit 20, and despite her young age, had soared her way up to become one of the highest-ranked researchers at the facility. Can finally work actively in the most cutting-edge elementary particle physics research under her leadership. Ukita was burning with passion that day. For half a year of work at Labo, Ukita found himself faced with a number of problems. He spent his breaks in between work in the reference room, worrying to himself as he pretended to look for documents. Wait, why is it that everyone I know is getting results except for me? Up until that point, he'd basically never been inferior to anyone else when it came to his field of study. Even the most outstanding of prodigies were easily overshadowed in a sea of geniuses. Labo was filled with that very sea. Does all my scientific training amount to nothing more than this? He gritted his teeth in frustration at the thought. Just then he heard the sound of the door opening up behind him. He turned around and saw Dr. Tenkawa there.
あら、浮田さん。あなたも何か資料を取りに？
ああ、いえ、博士こそ何か資料をお探しですか。よろしければ手伝いますが。
Ah, very cheeky.
いいえ、場所を覚えているから大丈夫よ。
I wrote half of these documents. She reached out for the top of a bookshelf as she said that. What's going on? Looks a tad unsteady on her feet. Oh, God! Just as he thought that, he saw Dr. Tenkawa's knees give out.
危ない。
Ukita quickly caught the professor, a number of papers raining to the floor.
博士、大丈夫ですか。
ごめんなさい。このところ徹夜続きだったから少しめまいが。
She let go of Ukita and stepped away from him. She was still walking on unsteady feet.
まったく私も情けないわ。たった3日寝てないだけでこんな風になるなんて。
大事。 Jesus.
3日もですか。それは少し休んだ方が良いのでは。
大丈夫よ。慣れているから。
Dr. Tenkawa put the fallen papers back on the shelf and tried to leave the room. Before he even knew what he was doing, Ukita called out to her.
天川博士。
え？
僕はどうしたら博士のような立派な科学者になれるでしょうか。
Never ever sleep. Professor's eyes widened at that question.
立派な科学者ってまるで子供のようなことを言うのね。
Oof.
いや、
いずれにしろ浮田さん、私は別に立派な科学者というわけではないわ。私は大きな問題を解決しなければならない。だから睡眠時間も研究時間に当てているだけよ。
大きな問題と言いますと。
Dr. Tenkawa quietly answered Ukita's question.
BC 能力には未だ不明の点が多く、放置していては危険なのよ。
That's a good
世間には
motivation.
指摘されているけれど、実は高レベルのコミュニケーターが BC を乱用した場合、精神が崩壊する恐れがあるの。
それは本当ですか。
ええ、事実。かつて私の知人のコミュニケーターは BC 能力乱用が原因で心が壊れてしまったわ。だから私は二度とそんなことが起きないよう BC の謎を解き明かそうとしているのよ。
では博士が寝食を忘れて研究に没頭しているのは全てコミュニケーターたちの今後の平穏のためで、あなたはコミュニケーターの未来を切り開くために人生を捧げているのですか。
そんな大層なものではないわ。だけど何か問題があればそれを科学の力で解決したい。今は誰にも語れないこの研究がいつか実を結び、コミュニケーターと社会のためになると。
Ukita found his heart moved by Dr. Tenkawa's words. As he thought about it, he pursued his research wholeheartedly because he wanted to be acknowledged by the world. That's the kind of person he was. Dr. Tenkawa was different. She'd likely achieved her current position out of conviction to save communicators. Ukita quickly grew embarrassed of himself the moment he realized that difference.
ありがとうございます、天川博士。おかげで目が覚めました。
それは良かったわ。私もあなたと話すことで少し眠気が取れたような気がするわ。
It wasn't exactly what Ukita meant, but close enough. As the professor left the room, he felt that the mere sight of her was like looking at pure light. It had changed from that day onwards. He threw himself into his research without sparing time for sleep. Well, he made efforts in research related to improving the BC insulator. If we can popularize a high-quality insulator, then friction between communicators and normal people should decrease. It was with those thoughts that Ukita sought techniques to create low-priced insulators with high energy absorptivity, achieving results after results. A year and a half later, Ukita encountered Dr. Tenkawa in the reference room, much like he had that one day. When she saw him, she broke out in a smile and spoke up to him.
浮田さん、あなたあれからずいぶん頑張ったのね。
は？
おめでとう。今回の人事であなたのジュニアフェロー昇格が決まったのよ。
Human affairs.
本当ですか？
ええ。明日からあなたには私が直接指揮する研究チームに入ってもらうわ。よろ
Well,
しくね。
はい、よろしくお願いします。
now he could finally work together with the scientist he so admired. His heart trembled with that thought. It happened 2 years ago. Okay, now we're catching up to the abridged route. Ukita had gotten special permission to enter Area N with Dr. Tenkawa that day.
これが WX 粒子増幅器。
Ukita was overwhelmed by the 6 towers standing in a giant hall.
どう？実物を見た感想は？
話には聞いていましたが、これはラボが総力を挙げて開発しただけありますね。
そうね。でもまだまだ不安定な面が多いのよ。 だから浮田さんには主に WX 粒子増幅器のオペレーションを担当してもらうことになるわ。もっとも作業のほとんどはシステム制御室で行うことになるから、あなたがここに来る機会はもうないでしょうけど。
そうですか。ところで天川博士、あの中央の円柱は何なのでしょうか。
ごめんなさい。あれについて知ることができるのはシニアフェロー以上の人間だけなのよ。
それは最高機密に関わるものということですか。
ええ。でも浮田さん、詮索はそこまでにしておくことね。
Secrets you aren't parry to. The look in Dr. Tenkawa's eyes became slightly pointed when she said that.
好奇心は猫を殺す。ジュニアフェローの人間はこの言葉を覚えておいた方がいいわ。脅したくはないけど、国家が運営に絡む研究施設を甘く見ない方が身のためよ。
わかりました。肝に銘じておきます。
That's a stern warning.
それはさておき、浮田さん、実はもう一つ頼みたい仕事があるんだけど。
何かのデータの検証でしょうか。
いえ、研究員としての業務ではなくて、私の息子の監視員になってほしいのよ。
監視員と申しますと。
実は私の息子夏彦は IGF2R 遺伝子異常タイプ S なの。
タイプ S？ それは。
ええ、出生率3000万分の1とも言われる極めて希少な存在よ。でも夏彦はまだ一度も BC 能力を発現させたことがないわ。ラボとしてはこれを看過できず、夏彦を監視対象にしているんだけど、先日お向かいに住んでいた監視員の方が退職してしまって、それでお隣に住んでいる浮田さんに。
ちょっと待ってください。僕の家は天川博士の隣だったんですか。
I didn't know this.
あら、知らなかったかしら。
ああ、近所で一度もお会いしたことがなかったものですから。
That's because I almost never go home.
確かにそんな機会はなかったかもしれないわね。私ほとんどこのラボで寝泊まりしているから。
Ever.
それでお願いできるかしら、監視員。 BC 能力が発現しているかどうかと、あとは息子の日常を少しでも報告してくれればいいのだけれど。
Dr. Tenkawa was always extraordinarily busy. There was no doubt that she had very few opportunities to see her son.
わかりました。その話お引き受けいたします。
And Ukita was also quite busy. He wrote up his observation reports once a month. Natsuhiko had been given the rather pretentious designation of Special Observation Target, Na2. This observation target, Na2, 66th Periodic Report. Observer Keiichi Ukita, date May 3rd, 2028. Location in front of Na2's residence. I exchanged greetings with Na2 for the first time this morning upon leaving for work. He appears to be a rather polite boy. No signs of BC ability manifestation. 68th Periodic Report. Na2's residence. Na2 and his friend M put a bamboo tree in front of the entryway. Na2's wish was for the three of us to always be friends. Appears that he has one more friend in that house. I've not been able to make any visual confirmation of them. Oh. However, when Na2 inquired to me about how Dr. Tenkawa was doing, I told him she's working hard. He did not show a particularly positive reaction to that. It looked more to me like disguised love. How does that work, Ukita? Report, no signs of BC ability manifestation. Thoughts suddenly crossed Ukita's mind as he wrote his report on Natsuhiko's day-to-day life. Think of it, Mashiro is always with Natsuhiko. I mean that Mashiro has feelings for Natsuhiko. Oh. You're an observer, not a shipper. A smile crossed Ukita's face as that guess filled his mind. I guess you can't help it when you're in that business. I mean, I ship them, so... However, his emotions soon changed when reality hit him. He'd already heard from Dr. Tenkawa that Masho Toba had an IGF-2R gene abnormality of type B. Those with IGF-2R genetic mutations were doomed with short lifespans. According to statistics, the life expectancy of communicators who were type B and higher was roughly 33 years. Ukita himself had just turned 33. The thought that Natsuhiko and Masho might not even make it to his age was heart-wrenching. He wanted to protect their futures. Probably would have never thought that way had he never met Dr. Tenkawa. It was extremely likely that the fact she had a Type S son had only strengthened her desire to save communicators. But what does Dr. Tenkawa plan on doing if her son, a special observation target, manifests his BC abilities? No, now that I think about it, I've never been told why special observation targets exist to begin with. Natsuhiko has been designated as NA2, which means there was likely an NA that came before him. Oh. Ukita accessed the network using his observer authority and typed target NA in the search engine on that hunch. He found nothing relevant. All records had probably been deleted for some reason. He then just tried searching special observation target. What's this? How to deal with special observation targets? Uh-oh. Someone left the cleanup instructions in the public search engine. Ukita opened the file under that name. Proposal for how to deal with special observation targets. August 1st, 2020. As follows, the observers and the administrators of Area 0 wish to deliberate the matter carefully. First of all, they wish to determine the new consideration criteria regarding confinement procedures for special observation targets. Up until now, the single criterion has been that special observation targets will be considered for confinement after reaching ability level 4. However, we believe this single criterion to be lacking in foresight. There have been many cases where IGF-2R gene abnormality level S communicators have displayed abilities that defy the norm. Thus, Legal believes that we should adopt unique criteria and supplement them to the existing criterion. Special observation targets will be considered for confinement in the event that they display unusual BC abilities regardless of their ability level. This includes cases where they display extraordinarily long-range telepathy and cases where their ability level rises considerably in a short period of time. Should a special observation target ever meet any of the above criteria, they will be immediately considered for confinement. I guess what changed... Putting of the situation is swift and preparations shall be made, and the special observation target shall be transferred to Labo at the best opportunity. Afterwards, they will be imprisoned in Area 0 as a test subject. They're being upfront about it. Furthermore, the test subject born in Labo shall be confined there permanently unless a special case occurs. Changes in circumstances, revision to laws, etc. Also, should a currently confined test subject be released for any suitable reason, they shall be reclassified as a special observation target. Like they could have done that with Yuri. I'd also like to establish different criteria for dealing with the aforementioned special observation targets. Although, to be fair, when the incident started, they still had experiments planned for Yuri. If years worth of experiments, I guess. But, like, they could have at least tried to phase her out into a special observation target. Deemed her as little threat. Area 0 Administrator Shuya Eraguchi. So after developing Senses Sympathy, or I don't remember what area ability level 4 is. I remember there being a number skill level scale from Rokume Academy. Which is just the conditions under which you can use telepathy. and later empathy at the higher scale. I feel like we're missing something as far as the instance of Yuri and Natsuhiko, where if you're rank S, you're going in the brig. He'll be imprisoned in Area 0 as a test subject. What does that mean? The world is Area 0. As soon as he thought that, he suddenly remembered what he'd seen in Area N.
ごめんなさい。あれについて知ることができるのはシニアフェロー以上の人間だけなのよ。
What if that was actually an elevator leading underground? It wouldn't be all that odd for there to be a place under Area N that normal researchers didn't know about. So what does this mean? This document suggests that special observation targets whose abilities manifest are imprisoned under Area N. Special observation target NA2. Tigo still hadn't manifested his BC abilities. That's probably why he'd been able to live a normal life ever since surveillance on him began in 2021, but Natsuhiko could be confined if his abilities manifest. What's more, this proposal mentioned a currently confined test subject, meaning that they have at least one test subject confined in Area 0 at this very moment. He'd tried typing Area 0 in the search engine with shaky fingers. When he did, the only thing his monitor displayed was Confidentiality Level 5. It appeared Ukita could not access this information with his ID and password. On the other hand, if there were people out there with Level 5 clearance and up, that meant Dr. Tenkawa and the other senior fellows could access it. It means only a select few researchers know about the existence of any test subjects. What are the senior fellows hiding from us junior fellows? Test subjects for what? In the first place, test subject was a word that was used to talk about mice and such, used for experiments. If that word was being used to talk about a human, that meant... Can't be. Is Labo performing human experimentation? No, I won't believe it. There's no way that Labo, that Dr. Tenkawa would ever partake in such barbarity. The seed of doubt in Ukita kept on growing day by day. Before he knew it, one day he started searching for information on any test subjects. He found the information he was looking for in a document located in a room where all the undigitized paper media would store it. Ukita was shocked at what was written here. Labo Fire Incident, July 10th, 2021. All relevant parties are most likely already aware of the fire that occurred in this facility 3 days ago, July 7th. Although the worst possible outcome was averted at the last moment, there were inadequacies found in multiple security systems. This document contains a compilation of the problems hinted at by that incident. The cause of the fire lies in the deranged actions of Senior Fellow S. S had been appointed as an administrator of Area 0, April 12th. As a result, he had quite a great number of opportunities to come into contact with the research results in Area 0, aka Subject N. And about 3 months later, S committed his crime. He took the power generator gasoline stored in Area 0, scattered it at 6 points throughout Labo. He used timed lighters to set them all on fire and intentionally caused the WX particle amplifier to go haywire at the same time. He also unlocked the gates to Area N and Area 0. He's believed to have committed the arson in order to escape with certain research results during the fire. Though this is nothing more than a guess, seeing as how S is now dead, the possibility of this is quite high. Furthermore, these research results shall be designated as N amongst all senior fellows to conceal the relevant details. If he hadn't had any context about the document, Ukita probably wouldn't have paid all that much attention about it. When he put together all the information he'd gathered so far, a doubt rose to his mind. It says here that this senior fellow S was in charge of Area 0. He did all that to try to get the test subject out of Labo. Could the research results designated as N be a secret code name for the test subject? It's nothing more than a guess, but Ukita felt he was on the right track. The senior fellow had gone deranged and set fire to Labo. Ukita couldn't come up with many reasons for why he'd do that. S probably took advantage of the fire to try to get the test subject out of the facility. Labo found out about what he did. So he failed and was killed. He remembered what Dr. Tenkawa had once told him.
好奇心は猫を殺す。ジュニアフェローの人間はこの言葉を覚えておいた方がいいわ。
As much as he might be leaping to a conclusion, it's at least understandable why he might leap to that conclusion. You dig? Words once spoken by the woman he respected so much now sounded horribly cruel. I knew it. Lebo really is secretly conducting human experimentation. Kita's body started trembling the moment that suspicion turned into conviction. He alone was being tormented by the fear of having looked into the abyss. 3 days later, Ukita decided to question Dr. Tenkawa as a scientist.
どうしたの、浮田さん。私をこんなところに呼び出して。
申し訳ありません。博士にどうしてもお聞きしたいことがありまして。科学者なら誰もが一度は考えることだと思いますが、万人を幸せにする技術を開発するため、一人の人間の幸福を奪うというのは許されることでしょうか。
Ooh. Called out. Professor answered Ukita's question honestly, as if she'd realized how serious he was.
人道的には許されないでしょうね。でも、たとえ許されないことでも、私たちはやらなければならない。私たちが向き合っているものは、人間が扱うにはあまりにもリスクの高い力なの。もし人類が BC 使用の是非を選べるのなら使うべきではないと思う。だけど我々が望もうと望むまいとコミュニケーターは新たに生まれ増え続けていく。ならば研究をやめるわけにはいかない。それほどまでに強力な力をそのまま放置しておくわけにはいかないから。
確かにおっしゃる通り、BC の研究を進めることについては是非はないかもしれません。しかしその手段についてはもっと深く考えるべきなのではありませんか。科学者としての倫理、人間としての倫理、そういったものを忘れてしまった時、技術は暴走すると思います。このことについて博士はどう思われますか。
ちょっと待って、これは何の質問なの。
いいから答えてください。お願いします。
確かにそうかもしれないわね。結局のところ私たちにできることは真理を追求することと目の前の問題を解決することだけよ。その善悪は私たちが決めることではない。歴史が証明してくれるはず。科学はいつもそうして進歩を続けてきた。そして私も自分の目的を達成するためなら何だってする。そんな科学者の一人に過ぎない。
Those words, something precious in Ukita, crumbled apart with a roar.
それでは博士、もう一つだけ聞かせてください。もし夏彦君が BC 能力を発現させたら、あなたは
浮田さん、あなたもしかして。
Ukita didn't answer her question. Finally, she sighed and spoke.
浮田さん、今日であなたのナ2号の監視任務を解きます。それと明日からは別の研究チームに移動してもらいます。
天川博士、それがあなたの答えなのですか。
Dr. Tenkawa didn't answer and simply walked away from Ukita. Ukita went outside Lebo after that. The sky was filled with heavy clouds that threatened to start raining at any moment. He started laughing to himself without even noticing it.
こ
コミュニケーターを救いたいと思ってこれまで必死に頑張ってきたのに、せっかく僕も他人のために何かがしたいと思えるようになったというのに、まさかラボがそのコミュニケーターを実験材料にしていたなんてなんて悪い冗談なんだ。
He couldn't stop the dry laughter coming from his throat. Suddenly he noticed that there were tears running down his cheeks. Must I find a clear solution to this? As a scientist, must I write off this sacrifice as insignificant in the grand scheme of things? Indeed, if he had just committed himself to that mindset, he could have continued living his life as he had up until that point. He could have lived as a highly paid Labo scientist with no inconveniences in his life. What happened to that test subject he'd never even seen before would have had no bearing on him. He should have had no issues with any of that, yet.
バカな。そんなことが認められるわけがないだろう。
Couldn't bear to live in such complacency.
科学者も被験体も同じ人間なんだ。どんな大義名分があろうと犠牲にしていいわけがない。
An emotion welled up from within his heart as he shouted that. I have to put a stop to it. It was a rage that smashed his devotion to his job to pieces. It was also the pure disgust of participating in such wrongdoings. By no means was that all. Oddly enough, it was what Dr. Tenkawa had shown him that gave him this conviction. A good heart that lived for others.
救う。囚われの被験体を。
He was probably the only one in the city who knew of the test subject and wanted to free them. If you were the only one who could act, then inaction was a sin. Perhaps that motivation is but a fragile, powerless sense of justice. Perhaps I'll be erased just like Senior Fellow S was. Perhaps Senior Fellow S was driven mad by Subject N. Just saying. Regardless, Ukita turned around and glared at Labo's gargantuan shadow. Cold rain suddenly poured down and crashed upon him. Don't get me wrong, Labo has a serious dilemma on their hands in terms of the fact that they are responsible for Subject N becoming the broken shell of a human being they once were, where she doesn't even know her name anymore and is just only filled with malice. They caused her to break that badly. Whether it was due to them not understanding Senses Sympathy and running her through experiments until she broke, or whether through malice or ignorance, they broke her. That is their ethical failure. And maybe everything after is just an overreaction of them saying, oh fuck, you have the potential for this ability, we need to keep you under lock and key until we can figure out how to control this ability. Everything designed to keep people with this ability in. God, I keep going back and forth between fucking shilling for Labo and shilling for freeing the test subjects. I'm just saying that Labo fucked up really bad. Should never have to keep people locked up, but Labo fucked up really bad. And they're like how a small children pushes their problems into the closet and shuts the door so they can avoid their problems. If that makes sense. I don't know why I'm using skins. Babbling again. Ukita's having a moment. We should get back to it. The flame that had been lit in the depths of his heart would never go out. For that night where Ukita learned the truth about Labo began his lonely battle. He worked all alone in his personal office. The only work he did was the mind-numbing process of examining the data sent to him. A fitting job for someone who had been kicked upstairs. There was a surveillance camera in his office, so he would have been found out immediately if he ever showed the slightest sign of doing anything suspicious. He couldn't read his mind. Ukita was thinking over his next course of action as he did his job. What should I do? I stop the human experimentation. The Rokume City government must be in cahoots with Labo if they're keeping up such a large-scale cover-up. Means going to the police is out of the question. Making word out to the media will be difficult as well. Labo performed a strict body search on anyone entering or leaving the facility, so it'd be extremely hard to smuggle out damning documents. What's more, Ukita still didn't know anything more than basic details about the test subject. One wrong step and he'd most likely meet the same fate as that senior fellow S had. That means the only reliable groups are. That thought hit him. Ukita began participating in various internet forums to find organizations who looked like they'd help his cause. He then posted a question to the users on those forums. Do you think you could forgive Rokume City if it turned out they were secretly using communicators for human experimentation? The responses only served to betray Ukita's hopes each time. The comments of "thank you for getting a tad delusional there" and "lol conspiracy theorists" showed that not only did they not believe him at all, but they also didn't have any sense of impending danger. What should I do? The test subject could be suffering even at this moment. So how? Just then, Ukita's PDA rang with a faint beep. Hello, it's terrorism calling. He took it up and looked at the display to find it read caller unknown. Though it made him feel vaguely anxious, he still picked up the phone.
もしもし。
発言者、ユウさんだね。
誰だね君は。いや、それよりどうして僕のことを。
Ukita had taken special precautions every time he participated in a forum discussion to keep his identity from being leaked. Someone's actually calling me. That means... Then the voice on the other end spoke gently, as if he'd anticipated Ukita would panic.
いや、待ってくれ。私の話をする前に、君の話をしたい。
僕の？
君の発言がどうにも気になってね。もっと踏み込んだ議論がしたいのだが、少々込み入った話になるんだ。場所を変えて話さないかね。
これから直接会おうというのか。
そんなところだ。なので、これから私が指定する場所に一人で来てほしい。もちろん断るのも君の自由だがね。
For some odd reason, Ukita couldn't defy that voice. The address he was given was the old Rokume City Hospital that had burned down in the Great Rokume City arson 14 years ago. This is a trap by Labo, then I might be erased. He kept up his guard when he walked into the ruins, but there was no sign of anyone else there.
おい、誰かいないのかね。
Ukita's shouts echoed ineffectually through the ruins. Ukita became convinced that it might have been a trap and was about to run for it. He spotted a shining object in a corner of the floor. Oh, we're having this kind of discussion. He walked over to the object and picked it up. It was a PDA. Words "call in progress" were displayed on its screen. Ukita timidly pressed it to his ear, then heard the voice of the man who had called him earlier.
よかった。来てくれたようだな。
It's the terrorism recruitment music.
これはどういうことだね。まさか人を呼び出しておいて
自分は姿を現さないつもりかね。
実はすまないが、直接会うのは無理なんだ。私は六名士に入れない身分なのでね。なので PDA を用意し、私の友人にそこに届けてもらった。
なんでわざわざそんな回りくどいことを。どのみち直接会わないなら、先ほどの電話でそのまま話せばよかったじゃないか。
おや、知らないのかね。六名士においてあらゆる電話は盗聴されているということを。
Ukita gasped. Though he had indeed heard rumors to that effect, he simply dismissed them as a rather sick joke.
市内で取り交わされる膨大な通話音声。それは六名士が用意した音声分析システムにかけられる。そして不穏なキーワードが含まれている音声があったら自動でピックアップし、保安課に通知されるんだ。そう、例えば、あなた方は六名士のことを許せますかなどという発言などはね。
では、この会話も盗聴されて
いや、この PDA は中継局を挟まず直接通信するデジタル無線機だ。信号は暗号化されているし、盗聴される心配はない。
Ukita felt his spine grow cold as they talked. He was of course shocked about the tapping. He also felt spooked out as just how thoroughly prepared the caller had been.
ともかく安心してくれたまえ。この PDA でなら、思うさま我々のしたい話ができる。
いや、その前に聞かせてくれ。君は一体何者なんだ。
私か。私は
Man paused before he answered Ukita's question.
Q といえばお分かりいただけるかな。
Q？ あのコミュニケーターを目の敵にしているテロリスト集団のことか。
いや、我々はテロリストなどではない。それについてはきちんと話させてもらうつもりだが、その前に私は君に提案したい。君はもう承知しているかと思うが、君が相手にしようとしているものは個人で戦うには巨大すぎる。そこでどうだ、君の目的のために我々を利用してみては。
バカな。僕の目的はラボに囚われているコミュニケーターを救うことだ。コミュニケーターを憎んでいるあんた方の手を借りるわけには。
いや、我々が憎んでいるのはコミュニケーターなどではない。
なんだと。
我々は確かにコミュニケーターを嫌っている。だが我々が最も憎んでいるのは
なぜ六名士。
Q はかつてテロ組織ではなかった。その頃我々は世に訴えかけた。人に心を読まれたくない、そう思うのは当然の権利のはずだと。だがそれがまずかったらしい。そこに目をつけた六名士の連中が我々をテロ組織に仕立て上げたのだよ。
Man then told Ukita about the trigger that turned Q into a terrorist group, about how a communicator called A caused the Great Rokume City arson 14 years ago on September 16, 2014, about how in spite of that, the Rokume City government had covered up the facts and blamed the entire incident on Q, about how A had been confined in Labo after that and then passed away a year later. Hearing that story finally gave Ukita the information he needed to connect all the dots together. See, that's why Labo has been confining communicators with immense power like A's under the facility. Labo's research probably benefited tremendously from taking communicators as powerful as A and using them as test subjects. That was how they'd been able to produce so many results up to that point.
つまり六名士同時多発火災の真犯人はコミュニケーター A とその悪意に感染した15人の男女ということか。
ああ、そしてこの15人は我々とは何の関係もない。たまたま町に居合わせた 般人たちだ。だが事件の真相は6名士によって隠蔽された。すると事件の辻褄が合わなくなる。無関係な男女15名が偶然同じ夜に放火事件を起こした。そんな荒唐無稽な話、誰も信じるわけがない。そこで6名士の連中は辻褄を合わせるためスケープゴートを用意することにした。我々はコミュニケーターを憎むあまりに街中に火を放った過激派というレッテルを貼られ、15名の真犯人と一緒くたに同時多発火災の犯人ということにされた。そして我々は投獄された。そこから出てきた頃には我々の団体は消滅していた。元のメンバーも散り散りになった。後から無実を訴えても誰も信じてくれない。このまま我々の声は消えていくかと思われたが、我々は諦めなかった。数年後、散り散りになったメンバーを集め現在の組織を再結成したのだ。6名士が我々をテロ組織だというのなら、その嘘を真実に変えてやろうと思った。そのためには我々は手段を選ばない。たとえ武器を取ることになろうともだ。
なぜそこまでして自分たちの無実を証明するためか。
それだけではない。断じて違う。我らはこの社会を守るためにこの道を選んだのだ。こ
の社会のためだと。
6名士同時多発火災の真相から鑑みても BC という能力は極めて危険なものだ。本来人類が扱うにはあまりにもリスクの大きな力なのだよ。
Ukita gasped. It was perhaps the epitome of irony. Those words mirrored the ones he once heard from the woman he respected.
君ももうわかるだろう。BC は決して世に知られているほど安全なものではない。だが真実の姿は一般人には知られることなく良い面だけが強調されている。たとえ問題が生じても秘密裏に処理され隠蔽され、あるいは偽りに塗り固められた形で公表される。我々が真に許せないのはそこなのだ。一部の人間が社会の動向を左右し、その裏で個人の尊厳は踏みにじられ、そして顧みられることさえない。それが当たり前だというのなら、社会の仕組みだというのなら、その仕組みから外れてでも異を唱えねばならないのではないか。身をもってこの欺瞞に満ちた社会に厳然たる問いを突きつけなければならないのではないか。
Every word the man spoke hit Ukita to the core. He had been thinking the exact same things ever since he discovered the existence of the test subject. Ukita answered the question in a clear voice. Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry.
どんな手段を使ってもラボに囚われている被験体を救いたい。断じてあんな研究など続けさせるわけにはいかないんだ。
Those words came straight from the bottom of his heart. A man from Q appeared and to have expected that answer.
そう。そして我々はラ 母と六名士の欺瞞を暴きたい。どうだね、利害が一致していると思わないかね。
それは確かにそうかもしれないが、
我々は君の道具だ。必要なものは全てこちらで用意しよう。あとは君に実行の意志があるかどうか、それだけだ。
He did have that will.
分かった。君たちの協力を受け入れよう。だがこれだけは約束してくれ。被験体を救い出した後、絶対に危害を加えないと。
約束しよう。我々は当然の権利を主張できる世の中に戻したい。それが
And thus Ukita decided to join Q. Then spent his days after that secretly working in Labo to gain the information he'd need for his plan. He'd occasionally hack a senior fellow's computer. It was a very risky move, but he always took the utmost of caution, and in time he gathered more and more information. With this document, there's definitely more than one test subject. There are children named Subject N, Subject Y, and Subject Y2. Where's the other Y? One of them was born in Labo. That means they must have abducted the other one. It says here that one of them has already been discarded. That means they died. I'll pay for this. I swear I'll save the other two test subjects. Case N. It appeared like this was a code word used to prevent the test subject from escaping. Specifications were revised to be stricter after 2021, huh? How are we gonna get past this? This is it. You can exploit this hole in the disaster prevention system. It's not something I can do alone. As they gathered more and more information, the structure of the plan began to form in Ukita's mind. After about a year or so had passed, he reported his life-endangering plan to Q.
つまり施設内で人為的な事故を起こし、その隙に被験体を救出するという計画だ。
素晴らしい。それなら厳重な警備を乗り越えられそうだな。
だが無論この計画は僕一人では成し得ない。消防官か何かの協力が不可欠だ。
分かった。では同志の勧誘は我々に任せておきたまえ。
Except when we do leave it to you,
いや、
Ukita.
可能性のありそうな人間をピックアップしてくれるだけでいい。仲間は自分で選びたい。
Ah, there we go.
我々のことをまだ完全には信用していないということだね。
当然じゃないか。僕はあんたの顔も名前も知らないんだぞ。
確かにな。いいだろう。では早急にこちらで調査を進めておこう。なお言うまでもないが、同志候補と接触するときは盗聴に注意してくれたまえ。例のデジタル無線をもう一つ用意するので、それを使うんだ。
Ukita did exactly what he said on that front. And then one evening, a week later, Ukita got home from work to find a PDA in his mailbox. It had to be the digital transceiver meant for the call. He checked the data folder to find a file labeled Comrade Candidates. Captain Watase Kasasagi of the Special Elite Rescue Squad, serious, huh? The file contained information beginning with basics like his address and phone number to extensive details such as his personal history. Surprisingly enough, it even contained key points to be used in persuading him. Wow.
しかしこれどうやって調べたんだ。
They're thorough and manipulative. So where in the world is that man that calls himself part of Q? Judging from his attitude, he most likely was telling the truth about being a member. But Ukita had grown uneasy about how the man always seemed to know exactly what he was thinking. I feel like I can rely on him now. I don't think he's someone I never opened my heart to. Is he a communicator? That'd be a hell of a twist. At this point, let's read some tips. Conflict. This is a tip. A disagreement or contention. In the information technology business, the term refers to when two pieces of software or hardware cannot run optimally on the same system concurrently due to competition for the same memory space or other resource. It could Computer systems and programs should avoid conflicts, but recent thinking suggests that a certain amount of conflict between humans is healthy, or even desirable. Pitting opinions and ideologies against each other, we can gain a deeper understanding of each other, and hopefully form a platform for open discussion. However, the conflict between Ukita and Miyoko was all too decisive to resolve. Ukita came to that realization he ended up joining Q. One extreme to another. That is perhaps both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. He does seem to swing between extremes often. From being in it for the science, to being in it for the communicators, to instantly saying, fuck this place, let's get the communicators out of here, to joining the terrorists. Juro Sonozaki, top member of Q. Once he learned that Leba was conducting top-secret BC research under the front of atomic power research, he swore to bring Rokame City's deceit to light by any means necessary. He is wanted as the principal offender for the Great Rokame City arson, but his whereabouts are unknown. Nevertheless, Q's membership is steadily growing, giving it influence over even the police and the hospitals. People without BC abilities have long been uneasy about BC and communicators. For unknown reasons, Sonozaki's hatred for BC far outstrips that of average people. Information regarding Q is thoroughly regulated within Rokame City to the point that its existence is at most nothing more than common gossip amongst younger people who are fond of the internet and are familiar with the name. So, essentially what they're saying here is that actual information on what Q does to the general public is regulated, i.e. suppressed, to the point where the average layman only really knows that there was a Q, and they're like an urban myth. That seems to be the impression I get from this. Interesting. So we're given his name through tips. On that note, when we return, we'll see the rest of Ukita's story. We haven't actually seen anything that needs repairing. Then again, we are taking the full backstory part. Maybe this is the wrong choice. And taking the partial route only exposes the scent-filled memories. We didn't notice any floral scent in this, which means that nothing's really changed with Ukita. I feel like the memory around the conflict with Miyoko would be a key thing that might change. Maybe that is just broken in a more subtle way. I don't know. We'll find out, though. Until next time. Until then. We have more memories to see. We're essentially getting into the crossover with Watase. So we'll see what happens. Next video.